My sister laughed when I couldn't pay $50. Then I cashed a check for $5 million. Now she calls me boss. They say real character shows when the bill comes. Mine was $50. My card declined. My sister laughed. Loud enough for the whole table to hear. She thought it was hilarious. But to me, that moment was a turning point. Years later, I cashed a $5 million check. And guess who applied for a job at my company? Her. No announcement. No revenge. Just a quiet signature. Mine. Has anyone ever laughed at your struggle only to watch your success? Share it in the comments. I'm listening. Let me take you back to where the real story began. Part 1. Rock bottom with a smile. You ever smile so you wouldn't cry? Not because anything was okay, but because you couldn't afford to let anyone see how broken you were? That was me. My name is Rachel. Fresh out of college, loaded with debt, juggling 2 part-time jobs and a dream that nobody in my family believed in. I was trying to launch a design business from a hand-me-down laptop that took 5 minutes to open Photoshop and crashed every time I saved a file too big. I was working mornings at a coffee shop, evenings folding clothes at a retail store, and late nights teaching myself how to build websites, design logos, and create brand kits on YouTube. My bank account was a cruel joke. My fridge was mostly condiments and takeout soy sauce packets. And yet I still believed. Not loudly, not with bravado, but in that quiet, stubborn way only people with nothing left to lose can believe. Melissa, my sister, didn't believe in it. She worked in a shiny downtown office, in a crisp blazer with a fancy job title and a predictable paycheck. She called my work a hobby, and she said it the way you say phase, when you're waiting for someone to grow out of it. Every time I mentioned a new client, she'd roll her eyes. Every time I stayed in on a Friday night to finish a design, she'd tease me. That little art thing again, she'd say. It was her version of support, drenched in sarcasm. But then came the dinner. Mom's birthday. Big family outing. Melissa picked the place. One of those trendy rooftop bistros with twinkle lights, overpriced tapas, and more ambience than entrees. I didn't say a word when I saw the menu. I just ordered water and the cheapest appetizer I could find. I told myself I'd make it work. That I'd shuffle bills. That I'd figure it out. Like always. But when the bill came, someone suggested we split it evenly. I panicked. My half was $50. I checked my account under the table. $38.67. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I leaned over and whispered to Melissa, "Hey, can you spot me $50? I'll Venmo you tomorrow." She looked at me, blinked. Then she laughed. Loudly, clearly, in front of everyone. "You can't even cover dinner," she said, laughing harder. "Wow. Maybe try getting a real job." The table chuckled. Someone made a joke about starving artists. I felt the sting rush up my neck, heat burning behind my eyes. But I didn't cry. I smiled. Because that's what you do when you're humiliated in public, and you have no choice but to pretend you're fine. That smile? It wasn't for them. It was armor. But inside I made a decision. Right there, with my $7 hummus plate and my pride in tatters, I promised myself something. I would never ask her for help again. Not out of spite. Not out of anger. But out of clarity. That night I walked home. I didn't text anyone. I didn't vent. I just sat on the edge of my bed, opened my laptop and whispered to myself, "Let's begin." Because if I couldn't afford to pay for dinner, I was going to make sure I could afford the whole restaurant one day. That was the moment something shifted. Not in my bank account, but in my resolve. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want an apology. I wanted freedom. And it was going to take more than $50 and a bruised ego to stop me from chasing it. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever had to smile through a moment that quietly shattered you? What did you do with that pain? Did it become bitterness? Or did it become fuel? Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there might need your honesty more than you know. And if this moment resonates with you, hit that like button. Not for me. For you. For every version of you who kept going even when no one believed in your little hobby. And now let me take you into what happened next. Because I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just went home and opened my laptop and didn't close it for the next 3 years. Part 2. The work no one saw. They say the hustle is loud, but mine was silent. No applause. No spotlight. Just the quiet glow of a laptop screen at 2 a.m. and the sound of my own doubt whispering, "What if this doesn't work?" After that dinner, after Melissa's laugh rang louder in my ears than the clink of cutlery, I went home and opened my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I didn't tell anyone what I was about to do. I just started. The first few weeks felt like screaming into a void. I applied for freelance gigs like it was a full-time job, writing social media captions, designing logos for $20, editing email newsletters. Most of the responses were silence. Some were straight-up rejections. Others, scams I learned to spot the hard way. But every night I came back. Because I'd made a silent promise. I will never ask her to pay for me again. The work was exhausting. Some nights I fell asleep still holding my mouse. Some mornings I woke up with the laptop on my chest and the sunlight in my eyes. I lived off instant noodles and hope. I couldn't afford to take paid courses, so I turned to what was free: YouTube tutorials, podcasts, blog posts, old textbooks from college. I studied branding like it was religion. I watched webinars on cold pitching clients, took notes on sales funnels, learned how to build trust with a single email. I became my own coach, cheerleader, and team. And slowly the cracks of light started to peek through the wall. My first paid job came from a local bakery that needed help redesigning their Instagram. They paid me $200. I stared at the payment notification like it was a winning lottery ticket. That night, I bought myself a real dinner. Nothing fancy, just Thai takeout. But it felt like a feast. Then came a $500 gig with a yoga studio. Then a monthly retainer deal from a small fitness brand that needed consistent content. They loved my tone. They called it authentic and warm. I laughed quietly to myself. If only they knew I was writing those captions in pajamas at my mom's kitchen table. Through it all, Melissa stayed the same. Still at her 9 to 5. Still sending texts like, "You still playing CEO? Do you even make enough to pay taxes? Bet your Canva designs are changing lives." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because my life was changing and I knew one day, the silence would speak louder than any comeback. Instead, I kept working. And I started a habit that changed everything. I kept a journal. I titled it Proof. Inside, I wrote down every single win. Big or small. Client thank you note. A payment screenshot. An Instagram DM from a stranger who said, "Your words made me feel seen." Even the moment I upgraded from instant noodles to real groceries. Because when no one claps for you, you have to learn to clap for yourself. Some days I'd flip through that journal just to remind myself I wasn't crazy for dreaming this big. That even if Melissa didn't believe in me, I was starting to believe in myself. And that mattered more. The truth is, what I was building wasn't just a business. It was a foundation. One made of grit, late nights, silent victories, and the kind of pride that doesn't need to be announced. I still didn't tell my family much. Not because I wanted to keep secrets, but because it felt sacred. Like if I spoke too soon, it might vanish. I wanted it to grow on its own terms. And it did. Month by month, I picked up new clients. Started hiring subcontractors. Created a brand identity. Built a portfolio I was proud of. Melissa still thought it was a phase. Still laughed when I said I had a meeting. Still rolled her eyes at the mention of deadlines. But by then, her words didn't sting anymore. Because I knew something she didn't. I wasn't chasing a title. I was building a legacy. And one day, when I signed a contract with a national wellness brand worth 6 figures, I didn't celebrate on Instagram. I didn't throw a party. I just wrote 2 words in my journal. Told you. So now I want to ask you something. Have you ever built something so sacred, so meaningful, that you didn't want to tell anyone until it was strong enough to speak for itself? Drop it in the comments. Tell me about that quiet win that changed your life. And if you're in the middle of your quiet hustle right now, keep going. You're not invisible. You're just still becoming. And just when I thought my story would stay quiet, something happened. A deal came through. A deal with more zeros than I'd ever seen in one place. And guess what name popped up in my inbox the very next day? Melissa. But I'll save that part for what's coming next. Because sometimes your silence makes the kind of noise they can't ignore. Then one day my silence made noise. The kind you cash at the bank. Part 3. The $5 million milestone. You ever hear silence so loud it echoes? That was the sound in my apartment the day I opened the email that changed everything. I was still in my pajamas, hair in a bun, coffee gone cold on the desk. I'd almost missed the notification entirely. It was buried between 2 rejection messages. But there it was. A national brand. A household name. They'd seen one of my rebranding projects online. They wanted to talk. Not just about a logo. About a full transformation content strategy, digital voice, brand identity. They said they needed someone who could make them feel human again. I read it 3 times. Then once more just to be sure it wasn't a prank. And 2 months later the contract was signed. 2 years. $5 million. Yeah. From unpaid Canva projects to a deal with 6 zeros. I didn't cry at first. I didn't scream or celebrate. I just sat there still in that same chair where I'd spent years proving myself in silence. For a second I closed my eyes and thought of every client who ghosted me. Every DM that said, "We'll pay an exposure." Every night I fell asleep with blue light on my face and doubt in my chest. This wasn't luck. This was late nights, silent rooms, and showing up when no one was watching. So what did I do? I registered my business. Not just a freelance profile anymore, a real agency. Hired a team. Designers. Writers. Strategists. All the people I used to try to be at once. I found a little office downtown. Nothing flashy. Just enough space for good ideas and even better people. And that's when it happened. We were hiring support staff and assistants, someone to manage scheduling, travel, calls. My inbox was flooded with applications. My project manager was helping me sift through them. She clicked one open, skimmed it, and said, this one looks familiar. Melissa D. I looked over her shoulder. I didn't have to read the rest. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I just smiled, small and quiet. Because I knew that name. Melissa. My sister. The one who laughed at me when I couldn't pay $50. The one who called my dream a cute little hobby. The one who told me, "Don't come crying to me when you hit reality." I took a deep breath and said, "Schedule her for an interview." "Are you sure?" my manager asked. "Absolutely. And here's the thing, I didn't want revenge. I wasn't planning a gotcha moment. I didn't want to throw anything in her face. I just wanted to sit across from her and let the room do the talking. The day of the interview she walked in early, clutching a portfolio, hair straightened like she was hoping it would impress someone. She didn't recognize me at first. The setup was too polished. The agency name didn't have mine on it. I wasn't sitting behind a laptop in a hoodie. I was standing confidently at the head of the table. I greeted her like any other candidate. When I introduced myself fully, her eyes blinked twice. Her mouth opened a little. And I saw it land. The recognition. The disbelief. The oh my god moment. She said, "Wait, Rachel." I nodded. She whispered, "You're the owner?" I smiled. "Yes. I'm the one who couldn't pay for dinner once." To her credit, she didn't run. She stayed. Tried to collect herself. Answered the interview questions with a stammering professionalism. But I could feel it. The weight. Not from me but from her own memory. When she left, my team asked if I wanted to move her to the next round. I paused, thought about it, and said, yes. Because leadership, to me, isn't about reminding people of their worst moments. It's about showing them who you became in spite of them. I didn't hire her out of pity. I didn't hire her out of pride. I hired her because real bosses build bridges even for the ones who once laughed from the shore. Now I want to ask you something. If someone who doubted you ended up needing you, what would you do? Would you close the door? Or would you open it and let your growth speak for itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone find the strength to take the high road today. And if this part of my journey hit something in your heart, hit that like button and subscribe. Because the next part? That's where everything changed. You see, winning isn't just about the paycheck. It's about what you do with the power once you've earned it. Part 4. The new power dynamic. You ever have one of those moments where you realize you've crossed the invisible line? The one where you're no longer the underdog, you're the one holding the door now? That moment hit me the first time Melissa knocked on my office door, not as my sister, but as my employee. Yes, you heard that right. After everything that happened, after the dinners and the dismissals and the years of silence, she sat across from me in an interview room, and now she was clocking in at 9 a.m. like the rest of my staff. I gave her an entry-level admin role. Nothing glamorous. Entry-level pay, standard expectations. I didn't hire her out of spite. I hired her because I believe in clean slates even for the people who once laughed when you were at your lowest. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't awkward at first. At meetings, she called me Ms. Rachel. She avoided eye contact. She sat stiffly in the conference room like she was trying to figure out if this was a setup. It wasn't. I meant what I said in that interview. I wanted to build a company where respect wasn't tied to family, title, or ego. It was earned, and it was mutual. So I set boundaries. Not to punish her but to protect what I'd built. I didn't give her special treatment. I didn't give her extra attention either. She submitted reports like everyone else. She answered phones, scheduled meetings, organized files. And slowly I started to see something shift in her. The sarcasm faded. The smugness was gone. Replaced by effort. Real honest effort. Maybe it was the culture I created. Maybe it was the job itself. Or maybe just maybe she started seeing me for the first time, not as the little sister chasing freelancer dreams, but as the woman who made those dreams real. One afternoon after a team meeting, she lingered behind while everyone filed out. I was packing up my notes when she spoke. "I didn't know you'd actually do it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry." I looked up. Not with anger. Not with pride. But with peace. Because by then I didn't need an apology. I already had my peace. Still I nodded. And I said, "I wasn't trying to prove anything to you. I just needed to prove I could do it to myself." And that was the truth. This journey, this climb, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclamation. Reclaiming my voice. My worth. My future. And now, every time I walk into that office, every time I see my team brainstorming, growing, supporting one another, I know what real power looks like. It's not about control. It's not about making people pay. It's about choosing kindness when you don't have to. That's what power is. Because if I had treated Melissa the way she treated me, I would have been right, but I wouldn't have been proud. Instead, I chose to lead. And that made all the difference. So now let me ask you something. What does power mean to you? Is it dominance? Or is it dignity? Is it getting the last word? Or choosing to let your work speak for itself? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know how you define it because I believe that true power is quiet, steady, and rooted in self-respect. And if you've ever had the chance to show grace where it wasn't given to you, what did you do? Drop it below. And if you followed me this far through the story, thank you. Your time, your heart, your empathy, they matter to me. This isn't just my story. It's ours. 'Cause maybe you've been laughed at too. Maybe you've had to smile through moments that shattered you. And maybe, just maybe, you're still building. So keep going. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep becoming. Because one day your silence will make noise. The kind they don't forget. And that, my friend, that's legacy. Because the truth is revenge fades. But legacy? That sticks. Melissa laughed when I couldn't cover $50. I didn't forget that. But I also didn't let it define me. I turned that laughter into fuel, those sleepless nights into strategy, and that pain into a paycheck no one saw coming. And now, she clocks in at a company with my name on the wall. I'm not here to shame her. I'm here to show you what's possible when you bet on yourself and stay the course. If this story made you feel something, leave a comment. Tell me who you are becoming. And don't forget to like and subscribe to In a Family Story, where we turn pain into purpose. And every story reminds you that you're not alone.